Welcome back to the College Football Pick'em Pod. It is week 10 in college football season, or as they call it here on the West Coast, opening day. Opening day of the college football season. We made it, everybody. November 7th is the opening day of the Pac-12. Good for them. They sure showed those East Coasters and got their games off nice and late. I think, Clemson is 7-0. And USC is playing a 9 a.m. local time game this weekend. It is just absolutely ridiculous, but it's good to have the Pac-12 back. It'll be fun to get to laugh at a Power 5 conference that is nowhere near powerful. And it'll just be nice. It'll be nice to have it back. I'm looking forward to it. Coming off a pretty good week here, Will. I had a really good week last week. I went 6-3 overall. And my only loss, I lost Houston, I lost LSU, and I lost Minnesota, and that Minnesota game sucked, man. They were up 17 in the fourth quarter and then just lost the game. There's no reason they should have even lost they should have covered, and then they somehow lose the game. So that looks like a worse loss than it was. But otherwise, nailed Ohio State, nailed Virginia Tech, nailed Ole Miss, nailed UCF, Houston under 82.5. We were both on that. That was easy peasy. Georgia, Kentucky, I had the under, and Coastal Carolina team over 30.5. They went for 51, had over 30 in the first half. So that was great. That was a really good week for me. Will, how'd you do?
I went exactly 500 again for the third straight week, and this is with the units. So it's even more. I am still sitting exactly at 170. So I don't know how I keep hitting this. I had some tough losses. Like the Oklahoma State Texas game it was such a joke. Like Oklahoma State outgained them on the ground, outgained them in the air. Overall looked like just the more complete, better team. And Texas just managed they forced 5 turnovers. I don't even want to give them credit in saying forced. Oklahoma State turned the ball over 5 times this game, and Texas still needed overtime. I'm going to use that to help me this week. Yeah. I hope I can finally get on the right side and things will happen as they should, because again, this Texas team is not good whatsoever.
That was one of my paid plays.
And it's just like, if you watch them play, they aren't a good team. I don't know how to say it. And it's like, you could make the argument, well, if they keep kind of pulling these games out of where, well, then maybe that is reliable. I'm not buying it just
no. Yet. And Oklahoma State was one of my paid plays of the week, and it was a lock the entire week. It was a no brainer. It was a doubt. It was no doubt the entire game. And Texas got lucky. Oklahoma State, with that roughing the punter penalty on 4th and 16, that was one of the stupidest plays in college football history. I hope that kid doesn't play this week. And I know it's college and you're supposed to be like,
it wasn't even that egregious too. Like that call, like you don't have to throw that flag. And like that's the game.
But he still shouldn't have been there.
Right. I don't know why they would even be that aggressive.
Why do you need to go to block that punt? You're going to win the game. Just get the ball and run the clock out and you cover. And then another one of my paid plays was actually Notre Dame, who missed covering by 1 yard. And it was brutal.
I love that.
Had it twice at the end. That was brutal. So it would have been a 4-1. I think a 4-1 week for me. We actually ended up going 500 there. So it would have been 4-2 week. We went 500 instead, 3-3 or something like that. 5, whatever it was. We went 3-3 there. But in the pros again, we're 12-5 in my last 17 against the spread or over unders. So if you haven't been paying attention to that, the link is down there. Form site. 17 straight, or that's 3 straight weeks, 17 picks. We don't have a Thursday night pick for tonight because the Green Bay San Francisco game is just a disaster right now with all the COVID stuff, and we don't know what's going on. But
I'm surprised that they're still playing that game. It really is surprising to me, not only from a safety level. Like I think you have cases on both sides here, and postpone it for safety, like number one, but also from a football side, like you are missing starters due to COVID on both sides. Like it's not like you have a practice squad player tested positive or like a staff member. No, these are like Brandon Ayuk and Kellen Bourne aren't playing because of COVID complications.
Would it be fair to call them the San Francisco practice squatters? Would that be fair at this point? Because I mean, Garoppolo's not playing, Kittle's not playing, Brandon Ayuk, Kendrick Bourne. Yeah. Your entire defense is still injured. Raheem Mostert is out. Like, would it be fair to call this a practice squad team?
We're getting there. I think we can still call them like third stringers because I think a lot of these guys, Jeff Wilson is hurt, Raheem Mostert's hurt, Tevin Coleman still hurt. So yeah, I mean, it's a disaster either way. And I'm not like, I don't think the Niners are going to make the playoffs. I think this is a great time to tank for Trevor. But
I don't know if you can tank enough to beat out the Jets, man.
The Jets
or the Cowboys.
But either way, it just is surprising that they're playing this game. But it is what it is.
I think that's a good sign, though. What I will say is I think it's a good sign moving forward for sports in the country is if they're thinking they can play through this one, I think you're going to start to see a lot of games. I don't know if we're going to see many more postponements due to COVID because
they really don't want to.
They don't want to, and we're up over 100,000 cases per day. I mean, whatever site you're looking at, you'll get different numbers, but it's around 100,000 cases the last 2 days or so. Not that anybody's paying attention really to that because everybody's still got their eyes focused on what happened Tuesday, but that is happening. And with players starting to test positive, you think it would have a bigger impact, and really it's not. And I think that's a good sign. I know the NBA is talking about playing on December 22nd. That's when they want to start. I think we might be kind of rounding the curve on canceling sporting events due to COVID-19. Now, those could be famous last words, but I think we have kind of rounded that curve. And I think people have learned how to deal with it and play with it and work through it inside their own departments. And I'm very optimistic on that we're probably going to see schedules go off as played, maybe with the exception of the Big Ten,
right?
And maybe with the exception of the Pac-12, just because if the Pac-12, if somebody sneezes at practice, the governor here in California will probably shut down every school in Oregon. So, who knows what's going to happen? But that's my one statement on California.
Yeah, and like I said last week, it's like if these players were testing positive and these coaches have been testing positive and they're like going to the hospital, then that's a huge deal. That's very concerning. Shut it all down. But out of all these teams and coaches that have, again, as far as I've heard, everyone's been recovering very smoothly and there have not been serious medical complications. And because we know more about the virus, we know how to treat it better. And they have these facilities where they can get, these kids, these players, and these coaches really good treatment because we know so much about it versus, in March, April, May, all that. So that's, I think, the sign where we have to look at. I don't feel confident about the Big Ten. I mean, Wisconsin, if they miss another game, they are now out of Big Ten contention. So there's a lot going on there. But let's get into it today. Before we get into it today, I do want to mention BetBuds. I mentioned this last week, and after we put out the podcast, I don't know if it was podcast listeners. I imagine it was. We got a bunch of signups. So if you were a listener and signed up, thank you so much. I mean, we put it out on our Instagram and on some other social media platforms. So I don't know, find exactly where they came from, but I feel like the timing was right for this podcast to really have a big impact on how many people signed up. And I got a lot of questions about it too. So just to explain, it's a group chat. It's a group chat where you can send bets with friends. They appear as bubbles in the chat. And then you say, yeah, I'll take that side. And each bet, you can set your unit, how much you want to bet for a group. We recommend $20 because then you can bet, you might have 5 friends that take you on and you got $100 on the game. Or you can say, you know what? I just want a little action. I got some action last night. I just want to have some fun watching that action. Let me just put out a unit. I'll have, one taker and you just got $20 on a game, make the game more fun to watch. So definitely check it out. The link I think is below, right, Phil?
The link is below. Yep.
It's betbuds.net. You can email us at contact@betbuds.net if you want to start your own group. We have a few more group spots available. So if you want to be the first, we're just going through testing, getting groups set up. If you want to start your own group, there are some remaining. So definitely reach out. And no commission. That's it. No juice, no vig. If you have $100 on the game and then $100 on another game and you split those, hey, no money lost, where you usually lose $10. But yeah, BetBuds, check it out. Let's get into the games this week. I love the board this week. And it's funny because the Pac-12 is back and I'm kind of the in-house Pac-12 guy over here. Mm-hmm. And I don't like any of the games. Like I have no plays on the Pac-12. We can still talk about some of the games. I mean, the USC Arizona State game is insane with the 9 a.m. local kickoff. I still don't know the reasoning behind that.
I don't
know if you want to explain that to me, but I remember there was rumblings of that last year, and now we're actually seeing it. It's just so confusing because the noon slot is always the most crowded slot anyway, where I feel like man, I don't have enough eyeballs. Like I could spare 3 or 4 eyeballs and, see all these games. I don't need another 9 a.m. slot. And when I do want more football, when I'm like, man, I just need to get a couple bets out there and recover, that's when I want Pac-12 after dark. So I don't understand. It's like they're taking a game where there's not much competition in the late time frames, like those 7:30 West Coast starts. They're taking those games and putting them up against the competition with the rest of the country at 12 noon. So I'm very confused, but I'm gonna watch. We'll see how it goes.
The Pac-12 is a joke, man. That's all our Pac, whatever. Yeah, they're a joke. That's why they're doing a 9 a.m. game here in California. It makes no sense. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't know. Maybe there's some COVID doesn't come out at night or during the morning. Who the hell knows? I don't get it. I mean, I was so confused. I thought it was literally a typo on the screen. I was like 9 a.m. Like, what are we doing?
Because I remember them mentioning this last year, and everyone rolled their eyes like, why?
Yeah.
And then not to mention, and maybe this is where we get into kind of the betting implications here for the players. I mean, usually players will get to the stadium for 4.5 hours before kickoff. And now this is 9 a.m. local time. So you're saying you're going to get to the stadium
5 in the morning?
5 in the morning, like maybe even like 4:30. And that's when you're getting there. So when are you waking up?
It's all about health, baby. All about health.
Yeah. So it's just like, I don't know. It feels weird. I've tried to look into like, okay, is this going to be just an under game? We just have to play the under here because the teams are going to be sleepwalking. Not to mention that it's like their first game of the season, and Pac-12 out of any conference has had the fewest practices. They have not been meeting in person. They have not. I mean, I mentioned it before when we were going over even SEC, ACC, Big 12 that they didn't have their training camp in spring ball, but they were able to get some practices in late. Mm-hmm. I mean, Pac-12 was so late to the party, even to get like these, practices leading up into the season. So I don't know how that's going to impact it. That's why there were no lines that really jumped out to me. I think USC here probably covers, but if this is just going to be a sloppy under game, that could happen, then USC might not cover. I like USC this year. I think they're going to be good. I think they have a chance to go 6-0 with their schedule and win the South. But man, there's so many unknowns that I've really, like I said, no action for me on the Pac-12 this week.
Yeah, I have one game on the Pac-12, but it's one that's going to be one of my paid plays. Otherwise, I'm ignoring it. It's hard to we thought we had a good read on the Big Ten the first week they were coming in, and neither one of us really did. It's hard with these like mid-season. They're just kind of showing up now. I want to bet what I know. I want to bet what I've seen. I want to bet what I can understand. And in a year as crazy as 2020, like, why try to project what the Pac-12 is going to be like? Why not just wait, see it out for a week, and then go from there? So I am going with teams that I've actually seen play. I'm still not completely sold on a lot of the Mountain West, so I'm not paying too much attention to the Mountain West right now. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm standing right now, which also means that for tonight's games, Utah, Nevada, Wyoming, Colorado State, I don't have anything. And I don't know if you do. I'm sure you do. You said you love the slate, and I know you love Thursday night gambling. So what do you got?
I don't have anything for
wow.
Thursday. And I think by the time this podcast gets out, it's like it's going to be too late. So we're looking here at Friday. And I do have 2 Friday plays. Obviously, Miami is playing Friday. We're Miami guys. So I don't know if you want to jump there first. We have BYU Boise State, which is a really big game on Friday night also. So where do you want to start off here?
Let's start with the Miami game. This is a tough one. It's in NC State. Devin Leary still isn't playing, right? That's still Brockman.
He's done.
He's done for the year.
I think he's done for the season, or maybe he'll play like the bowl game if there is a bowl game. I don't know. Like it's going to be whoever that is, Bailey Hockman. I think
Bailey Hockman. You know what the problem is? Miami should cover this no problem. So I should take the other side, because when Miami's supposed to cover a game easily, they don't. And NC State didn't look good against North Carolina without Devin Leary. Devin Leary. He looked really good to start this season. NC State was one of my favorite teams to bet. I hit them 3 times in a row because they were always just on the raw. They either weren't favored by enough or they were underdogs by way too much, and it didn't make sense. So
Leary was the reason too, and there's some teams where I've said like, okay, they lose their starting quarterback, but I don't think the drop off is that big. I got one of those really wrong with Kansas State, and we'll get there.
Whoa, yeah, yikes!
Will Howard is a huge drop off.
Yeah, that was ugly. But
for here, I do think that Bailey
Miami's
Hockman is a significant drop off from Devin Leary. I am on the Canes here, minus 10.5. I only have $10 on it, but I would, if this was 10 or 9.5, I would definitely increase the units on this. So I guess technically 1 unit for me. And I think really what I'm looking at here for this Miami team is that it really helps that it is a Friday night matchup. Mm-hmm. Miami is they just come out when the lights are on. Prime time, baby. That's the Canes. It's weird. It's this Miami swag vibe that they really turn it on when they know they got eyeballs on them. Yep. And you look at this Virginia game, this Pitt game where it's been slow. Those are ACC network games on Saturday with a lot of other games on. And this is one of the marquee games on Friday. So I see them, they're coming off a bye too, which I also really think helps them. I think NC State might also be coming off a bye. But for this Miami team, who really looks sluggish against Virginia, you think that they would be able to iron out those issues in the bye week. So give me the Canes here, minus 10.5. I also have a play on the total. You have anything on that or anything more on the spread?
I would go under for sure.
Okay, that's what I am on.
Yeah, I'm not betting it, but that is where I would go in this game. I also have the Canes minus 10.5, but I'm not actually going to play the under, although I should feel more comfortable with the under. But the Canes just have a way of doing exactly what you don't think they should do. But I have a hard time seeing NC State putting up 20 points in this game.
Right, and that's really where I'm at. Miami's unders, I know we took the over in the Pitt game because that total was so low. It was 47, and then we did hit the under in the Virginia game. So for me, this is another pretty clear under, and this is why I like actually pairing these bets, and you could put the same units on it, because the only way this game goes over is if Miami's offense explodes like it did against Louisville and FSU. That's where you're going to get this over if it does hit. And if that does happen, Miami will cover those 10.5 points. So the worst case scenario is you going 1-1. I think 0-2 in those two bets would be extremely unlikely. Mm-hmm. And if you're betting on BetBuds, going 1-1 is a actually real push. So again, I recommend signing up for BetBuds so you can, not lose money on your pushes. But I think 2-0 is actually the most likely scenario here. I think Miami, their defense has been good all season. We like to rag on them, but defensively, they've been really, really solid. And we have a backup quarterback with NC State. I just don't know how many points NC State's going to score. And then you look at Miami, how many points are they going to score? Their offense hasn't looked that good since playing those two really, really trash defenses. So I think Miami, they get into the 30s, but NC State is not going to do enough there. The number I'm seeing is at 59, so I'm also on under 59. Has that moved at all?
No, it's still under 59.
So, yeah, I like pairing these bets together because I think the worst you'll get is 1-1. I don't see. And then, yeah, if Miami isn't going to cover the 10.5,
because the game is low.
Because Miami's not scoring, and then you will definitely get your under. So either way, you're just really looking at this nice pairing.
I agree. I do agree with that statement. And the Miami under, I'll do the Miami under as well. I'm gonna hop on with you.
You're gonna hop on the pairing because I think
I'm gonna hop on the pairing. I agree.
Playing one and not the other, you just risk losing one of them, and the other is such a good hedge in this matchup.
I agree. You could talk BYU Boise. I'm not going to.
You're not going to.
Not going to talk it. Paid play. Will.
Oh, okay. Because this one to me, I would go the full 20, the 2 units, but I'm going to go 1.5. I'm going to go with the $15. We each started the season with 200. I'm going 15. BYU to cover this one. BYU has looked good all season. They only had that one time they didn't cover in that look-ahead spot to Houston. They looked really good against Houston. I'm not sure how good Houston is because they did kind of get smacked by UCF a little bit this week. But, I mean, this is it. This is BYU Super Bowl. This is everything. And Boise State, we just don't know much about them yet. They've only played 2 games. They haven't played that great of an opponent. I think they played Air Force and, I don't even remember who their other opponent was. It wasn't anybody of note. So we don't know a lot about Boise State yet. And who's playing quarterback? I think there's some COVID issues going on. I think Bachman might be benched. I don't know. We should probably find out.
But I'm looking right now. Yeah.
If they have Bachman, I don't feel great that Boise State's going to come in. This is going to be the first real matchup they've had all season. Meanwhile, BYU has been preparing itself for this game. They've had their big matchup with Houston. They've had some pretty solid wins throughout. They've blown people out doing it too. So when this is only at 3, you got to take this here. You got to take this. And again, the only reason I'm not putting 20 is just because Boise State is a question mark. And maybe Boise State's really good, but the likelihood of that, is that more likely? I think there's probably a 20% chance that Boise State's really good. So I really like the Cougars. This is what we've been building up to. If you look at BYU's schedule, there's not another game where they're going to be able to make a statement here. It's Friday night, similar story to Miami. This is BYU's last primetime matchup of their season. This is it, boys. This is it for the Cougars. I think they absolutely take care of business. And you might see something like the Houston game where it was kind of back and forth, and Houston was keeping it close. You didn't know how it was going to break. And then second half, BYU, they're just the more experienced, more complete team and run away with it in the second half. So I like this one here. BYU -3.
Yeah, the juice is actually, there's more juice actually on Boise State in this game. -114 to get the +3. So not bad. If you're with Will, not bad to side on BYU here for sure. That covers Friday. Let's go into Saturday. Will, where do you want to start on Saturdays? Obviously, this is like our first real full slate of the season. This is the first time we're really going to see it all.
Like I said, I'm not on any Pac-12 games, so it's not changing much for me. I know we have whatever it is, 6 new matchups now, but again, I'm not looking at any of those, so I feel pretty good. There's a couple here that I can probably rattle off quickly on Saturday. I don't know if we want to go in order, but just $10 bets that are kind of principal plays, and then we can get into some more of the matchup stuff. So Army-Navy, currently at 41. This is one where you go under every time. Just Service Academy unders usually hit. And usually you might get it at 43, 44, 45, and that could scare you. But more often than not, these games are in the 20s, 30s. They rarely get into the 40s. So am I saying this is definitely a win? No, but there's value. There's value in getting that at -110 or +100 if you're betting with friends and bet buds. +100. Why not take this? It's just more likely to happen than not. So that's a quick one that we can kind of get out of the way. Another couple other quick ones, just it's the fading Kansas, the fading Rutgers. It's a pair here. They both have identical spreads. It's Oklahoma versus Kansas, and Oklahoma and Ohio State here. They're both at home. So Oklahoma versus Kansas at home, -38. Give me Oklahoma. And then Ohio State -38 at home versus Rutgers. Give me Ohio State, especially Ohio State. I like that one even more just from what they have to do this season. If you thought Wisconsin might be coming out of the other division that you could face in the championship game, there's a good chance Wisconsin won't be eligible. So it's just, they got to lay on. I don't know. Are you on any of these?
I got Ohio State. I got Ohio State -38. I think that's a good play. I think Rutgers is Rutgers, and Shiano's got them playing better defense and all that. But yeah, they put up a fight against Indiana last week. They really did, and it was a good game. It was a fun game actually to watch. But
I didn't cover though, and that's
exactly what I was going to say. They didn't cover, and I think Ohio State, they got to blow everybody's doors off. I've been saying that the whole time. They have to blow doors off, especially if Clemson gets through this weekend and doesn't lose despite not having Trevor Lawrence. Oh my God. Like, Clemson is going to the college football playoff. There's no doubt about it, because then they're going to get Trevor Lawrence back, and they won 2 games, even if it's a close loss this week. But if they win this week, that puts everybody else on alert that, like, okay, now there's 3 spots left to play. That's it. We got 3 spots.
And remember when it was that same week as the Georgia-Alabama game and Clemson was playing Georgia Tech? And it was like, okay, whatever. Not thinking about that game.
Crap out of them.
Clemson was like, okay, Bama and Georgia have their primetime matchup. All eyes are on them. Let's get some attention. Let's retain the #1 spot, knowing that whoever won out of Georgia Bama would then have the best win in the country so far. So Clemson put a beat down on Georgia Tech. Now we have the other side. We have Clemson and Notre Dame facing off in a top 5 matchup, prime time, all that. Ohio State's got the sleepiest matchup ever against Rutgers. This is a time where it's like, hey, don't forget about us. Let's put up 70. Let's put up 80 so we stay in the conversation. So, yeah, I really like that one. And then on the other pick, Kansas, I've faded Kansas. I continually do it. And this number I get, it's high. It was 28 points last week against Iowa State, and Iowa State covers that. They win by 35. So I'm pretty sure it was 35, or maybe it was 30 or something. But Iowa State had the lead the whole game. It's just great joy to me for this. So Oklahoma, they're now ranked, I think. I think they're 22nd or something. Mm-hmm. Or at least they're getting votes. So I think they're trying to kind of rebound after their 2 early losses in the Big 12. So they got to put the beat down on too. Both these teams are at home. I know it's 38, but let's roll with those. I got $10 on each. High numbers, but I do like them.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I got the Ohio State one. I don't have the other. I don't have Oklahoma, but I do get what you're saying here, and I understand why you're coming at it from this approach. Anything on UNC versus Duke? UNC favored by 11 at Duke. I know you said you're staying away from the ACC for the most part, but this is more of a question. I don't actually have a play on this. I just want to see what you think.
You probably get like UNC here. I know they've had a couple of really tough weeks, and it seems like a good spot to kind of get things right against their rival and kind of make a statement. But what is it at? Like 10
at 11.
11. Yeah. You can't trust this Tar Heel team though. I really don't have any faith. So I'm staying away from it. Are you on it?
No, I'm not. No, I'm staying away. I wanted to ask you about that one though, and then I have 2 others that I'm thinking about making plays on, but I'm not completely sold. And I think other people are probably going to be doing this, and I want to throw them by you because they're just under the key number, and I feel like it's done very purposely here by Vegas. We have Texas by 6.5 over West Virginia, and Iowa by 6.5 over Michigan State. Do we give any credibility to the favorites in this game? Because when you're getting it under a touchdown, that normally is where people are going to lean. Do we like the lean here on the under, on the favorites? What do you think?
So I think Iowa, Michigan State, it's just such a confusing one. Iowa's 0-2, but they haven't looked that badly. I think Northwestern's actually a very good team, so I don't kind of knock them too much for that loss. And then who is their other loss to? Purdue. And Purdue is actually on the up also. So it's tough with Iowa. I don't know a ton. Actually, that game is one where I was actually eyeing the under. I'm not on it, but that's the play for that game, in my opinion. And then I am on West Virginia, Texas. Kind of set this one up already. That Texas completely got away with the one last week, and I think there is actually a ton of value on West Virginia. I'm on West Virginia plus 6.5. I got 15 on it. So Texas beats whatever top 10 team. I don't know, what were they, like 5 or 6? Like
I think they were 8, but I could be wrong. I can't keep up with the
higher than that. They were higher than that. But
I just can't keep up with the rankings.
A top 5 or top 10, whatever you want to say. And to do that and to still look as bad as they did, like usually if you pull out a win like that, you're like, okay, I'm seeing some good things. They turned some things around. I'm still not seeing any of that for Texas. And the reason they were able to score is because of the field position they were getting. Like Oklahoma State's defense was still playing really well. They just couldn't, like these drives, they were getting it in Oklahoma State territory time after time, and they're going to score points. Unless they're given 5 turnovers, I don't see them being able to cover 6.5 versus West Virginia. And I'll also toss this out. I think West Virginia money line is a really good play. West Virginia's defense is legit. It's probably on the same tier as Oklahoma State. Again, some points came in overtime. And if you look at that final, I was on the under last week because I like Oklahoma State's defense. Again, it was the field position. It was the overtime. That game should have gone under. And it's going to be, especially Texas offensive line is not good. They are weak, and that's where Virginia is strong on the other side of the ball. They got a great front. So I think it's going to be a long day for Sam Ehlinger and that Texas offense. I don't see them putting up a lot of points here. And West Virginia, I don't know, their offense isn't amazing, but that defense is going to keep them within 6.5, and they might even pull out the win. So I got West Virginia.
Yeah, I just don't love West Virginia, but I do see what you're saying. I think this is a little bit of a trap from Vegas here, putting it under 7 because they know Texas is a public team, and then Texas comes in hammering them. I kind of agree with you, even though I'm not betting it.
Yeah, I saw the money line at 210, so that's 1-2. I think West Virginia has a very good chance to win this game outright. I really do.
Yeah, and another one at that time slot that I think is worth looking at, even though I don't have a bet on it, but this is where I would lean. Liberty plus 14 against Virginia Tech. I was all over Virginia Tech last week, and they did really good. This looks like a small spread because it's an ACC versus a smaller school. Liberty was the one who beat Syracuse earlier this year and never had a problem with them. And I'm not saying Syracuse and what Virginia Tech are on the same level at all, but I do think that this is a team that could actually give Virginia Tech a lot of trouble and possibly even knock them off. So I do kind of like Virginia Tech here.
I mean, 15 one place also.
Yeah, it's dropping. That's the thing. It's dropping. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
if it's in on this, it's above 14. I have $10 on this one. I am on it at 14.5. I'm with you. 2 touchdowns, man, is too much to trust in a Virginia Tech team that has been super inconsistent. I mean, they eked out a win last week against Louisville, and Louisville has been trash all season long. So, I mean, I don't know. I get it because Liberty is kind of this hot group of 5 team right now that everyone likes, and they could be kind of public with this number. And then Virginia Tech takes care of business, but it's too big of a number, right? Like it shouldn't be this high because
I agree.
Virginia Tech can take care of business. They can handily win this game and win by 10, 11, 12 points. And you're sitting there with a cover. So I do like this one as long as it stays above that 14 number. And currently I see it at 14.5. So give me that.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it as well. I'm going to do it as well at 14.5. Let's do it together and let's be excited about it. So I think that'll be good. Okay, let's move on. Will, what else do you have? What else you got rolling here? I've thrown out a lot of games here. What do you got?
So we have the cocktail party. That's a huge game. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I got 2, but I'm on the spread and I'm on the total. Feel good about it.
What do you got for the spread? What's your play?
Let's see here. I'm going to go Florida plus 3. I got 3.
I have 3.5.
Even better. That's what I wanted. That really is what I wanted. 3.5. I'm way more comfortable with it. I've had Georgia peg the past couple of weeks. Their game against Bama, I had the over on because I knew it was going to be a shootout style game. That number was way too low. And then last week, we talked a bunch about that Kentucky-Georgia game, how that game's going to go. That went exactly to script. I was on Kentucky plus 15. I ended up getting it plus 17 when I ended up taking it. And I know you were on the under in that game. That game ends 14-3. And so here's where I'm at with Georgia. Stenson Bennett offense is just not good. We've seen it now. 2 more interceptions from him last week against Kentucky. There's just pretty much nothing there in the passing game. They can run the ball a bit, but just the passing game is disgusting. And we do have to give Kentucky some credit there because they have a very good defense. And Florida's defense, nowhere near Kentucky. Florida's defense has been pretty terrible all season, although they did look a bit better against Missouri. So where I'm really picking Florida here is on that other side of the ball, where said it before, saying it again, great offense beats great defense. And Georgia, number 1 offense in the country in a lot of metrics and rankings, eye test, all that. You can believe that. I do believe that, actually. Georgia has the best defense in the country. Mm-hmm. But we saw what that number 1 defense did when it faced Alabama, who has the number 1 offense. And our Alabama's number 1 S&P plus in offense. Florida's at 4. So Florida is right there, one of the most explosive, high-powered, efficient offenses in the country. So Florida's going to score. I know Georgia's got the best defense, but that doesn't mean Florida's not going to score. And on the other side, do you really trust Stetson Bennett to keep up with Florida's offense? I don't at all. This is another one where you could look at the money line here. There's not as much value because the spread is lower. I do like now that it's above 3. So give me 3.5 here. I do like this one. This will be a fun game. I'm also going to take the over. I'm seeing it at 52.5. Mm-hmm. I got 15 on the spread and I got 10 on the over. And it's the same reasons why I took the over in the Alabama-Georgia game. This is a very similar situation.
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a better situation for the over because Florida's defense is so much worse than Alabama's defense. So I see Georgia being able to score, maybe not as easily as Alabama did, especially in that second half, but Florida will get its points, and it's going to be easier for Georgia to move the ball. So over 52.5, it seems like a very solid bet. Now it is, I think there might be some weather implications here. That's why I'm only going 10 on it. It might be a bit of a windy weekend, but both these offenses should be able to put up points. So I like Georgia +3 or +3.5 and over 52.5.
Got it. One of my paid plays is in that game, so I'm not going to talk much about it. But
I wanted to get some back and forth. I feel like
you're not getting any type of feedback on that game, Will. Sorry for you.
Going on my rants here about good defense, good offense, or the best defenses and the best
I will
offense.
say the one thing about the over that worries me.
Okay.
So the one thing about the over that worries me is that Georgia's going to love running the ball against Florida this week.
See, I don't think they will be able to. They can't. They just can't afford to do that. They're not going to be burning clock when it's 14-3 and they're losing, or 10-3.
Well, if they're losing, but
Florida's offense will score. Kyle Trask, one of the most efficient quarterbacks so far this season. This isn't like, their offense is pretty good. No, they're number 4 in the country. It's not like they're a top 10 offense, top 20 offense. This is a top 5 offense in the country, and we do have a sample. We saw what Alabama, and I know Alabama's number 1, so it might not be as prolific, but we've seen what happens when the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense meet. And it wasn't close. It really wasn't close. Alabama was able to score pretty easily.
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
I hear you, man.
Florida's got the receivers. They've got the QB.
I hear you. All right. I want to go to Minnesota versus Illinois. Minnesota -7.5. Illinois +7.5. Minnesota coming off that disastrous loss last week after getting blown out against Michigan in week 1. Illinois, what did Illinois do last week? They have a good game last week? I don't think they did. Illinois football. Let's see. I totally am forgetting. Oh, yeah, they lost to Purdue. That's what it was. 31-24. They lost to Purdue after getting blown out by Wisconsin. It might be the only time we see Wisconsin all year. They might be the only team with the privilege of losing.
Notice that they were able to score 24 points, Illinois was.
Yes, which makes me think Wisconsin's defense is just really good. And based on what Maryland did last week.
You and I were on Illinois in that Wisconsin game, and we were watching it. We weren't watching it together, but we were both texting back and forth like, oh my gosh, Illinois, like missed field goal, turnover, just not able to score once they got on Wisconsin's side of the field. But they had so many opportunities. It wasn't like they were going 3 and out every play and punting. Illinois was in position to score against Wisconsin much more than 7 points. I know you look at that score and you go, 7 points, this offense is terrible. The Illinois offense is not that bad.
Yeah.
So that's a preview for where I'm going with this game.
I have Illinois +7.5.
I don't know. I don't feel good about the spread. I just don't, because Minnesota now, after losing to Maryland and Michigan, they're sitting 0-2. They are in a spot here. And you have this Illinois opponent who, they're 0-2 also, and have been considered one of the worst teams in the Big Ten for some time now. I don't think they are, but it's a spot where Minnesota, if they can exploit some matchups, I think they might really want to blow this team out if they're able to do so. Now, I don't think they're
able, though.
That will be the question if they're able.
And they looked pretty good against Maryland in the second half before they fell apart, because they were tied and it was back and forth. And they came all the way back after being down a lot, and they took a 17-point lead. And it could have been 21 and they would have been covering, and I've been like, great, total momentum shift. But then they just started to fall apart, and I don't really understand what happened to them, but they really did just dissolve into nothing. And so I like Illinois here, because I think Illinois, that first game was closer than what the final score indicates, because of how many times they had the opportunity to score. And I think that this is going to be the same situation. I only have 10 on it, but I just don't think Minnesota is that good this year. Their defense is horrible.
So this is where I am, Phil. I'm going over 61.5. I really like this one. I'm going $15 on it, not the full 20, just because I don't have enough bankroll, because I have other bets I like too. I got so many bets I like.
I love it.
As we can talk, Minnesota's defense is terrible. Miserable defense. In that Michigan game, we came out thinking, oh, man, Michigan's offense looks amazing. Then you see what Michigan's offense does against Michigan State.
Yeah.
So Minnesota made Michigan look good. That's a feat right there. That's how bad they are on defense. And you look at that Maryland game, Minnesota's offense played pretty well. Tanner Morgan looked so much better against Maryland than he did Michigan. I know it's Maryland, but that offense is able to score. I did their offensive problems that I saw against Michigan and did not see it against Maryland. And now they're playing Illinois, whose defense we saw what Wisconsin was able to do against the Illini. So I'm in on Minnesota's offense this game. They're going to score. And then we have this terrible Minnesota defense. Minnesota is our Big Ten over team this year. We found them because they have a very capable offense, it looks like, and one of the worst defenses in the country, it looks like. And like I said, Illinois, that 7 number in the Wisconsin game, that's deceiving a little bit. And they were able to score last week against Purdue. So I think Illinois is able to score because Minnesota's defense is so bad. Minnesota is going to be able to score because their offense is good, and Illinois' defense hasn't really done anything to impress us either. So I got over 61.5. I believe both of Minnesota's games have gone over that number so far, right?
Yeah.
So give me that one. I got $15 on it.
You got $15 on it. I'll take it. I'll move it along. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. What do you think? Oklahoma State favored by 12. Kansas State looked really bad last week. Will, I know you were on them to win, stay undefeated, and they got smoked. What do you think?
I've got two $20 plays this week. This is one of them. Where do you think I'm going?
Are you going on the total?
No, I'm on the spread.
Oh, you are on the spread. Okay. I would think you would go OK State, but now I'm concerned you're going to go K-State because it's kind of like fading how bad Oklahoma State was with turnovers last week.
I'm on Oklahoma State to cover.
Okay. Good. Okay. That's what I would have done. That's what I am doing.
This is going to be easy money right here. I really do. I think this is one of the best plays this week. And we're getting a lot of value because of their loss to Texas, even though, as I've said like 10 times so far on this podcast, that Oklahoma State played a better football game and looked like the better team. If you give me Oklahoma State, Texas right now and give me that 3.5 again, I will take Oklahoma State every time. I don't regret betting that. That just didn't go in our favor. And then you look at Kansas State. Kansas State's done, man. It was a fun ride. I was on them. They were this kind of they beat Oklahoma. Skylar Thompson was looking good. You were getting lots of value with them. But the ride's over. Will Howard is not getting it done.
No.
I thought he might be able to because he looked good against Kansas. Why did I trick myself into thinking that looking good against Kansas means anything? He's not good. And then Oklahoma State is coming off a game where they should have won. They lost. So they are going to be so hungry. And I just want to look, and we can move into another Big 12 game after this. Look at the rankings atop the Big 12. We have a 3-way tie for first place. It might be a 4-way tie, actually. I think, but I know it's a 3-way tie at least. We have Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Kansas State, all with one in-conference loss. So Oklahoma State's coming to play Kansas State, who they're tied with. If Oklahoma State beats them, they jump to the top. They knock Kansas State off, and then they're still in the Big 12 title game, which is where they want to be. It's where they need to be. And they know they're the better team. They know they should have won that game. So I just think Oklahoma State's going to come out hungry here. If this is under 2 touchdowns, you take this every single time. Kansas State's defense not showing up. Oklahoma State's defense is going to be a problem for Kansas State. Kansas State, they put up 7 points?
It was bad. It was
against West Virginia. And I've said Virginia's defense is really good. Oklahoma State's defense is even better than West Virginia's defense. So I am not trusting Will Howard, this backup quarterback, to score. I think
Oklahoma State almost won last week at -5 on the turnover battle. That's insane.
They still should have won. They should have covered if it weren't for the roughing the kicker penalty. They would have covered a game where they turned the ball over 5 times.
Yeah.
It did not break our way.
No. But it should have. But it should have, and that's the point. Yeah, I like it. I got Oklahoma State as well, -12. It's my biggest play of the non-paid plays that I have this week.
I'm surprised that's not a paid play, honestly. I would make, if I were selling picks, that's my paid play. I'm not. You get them for free.
I agree, man. I agree. Hey, there you go. That's what I got. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. What's your other Big 12 game? Iowa State over Baylor, I'm assuming, considering you just went there?
Yeah, that's where we are. We have this team atop the Big 12. So I got Iowa State. I would really like this one to go under 14.
It's at 13.5.
Oh, all right. Perfect. Because this was one I don't actually like. It's a $10 bet, but I'm like, feels.
Yeah, I have 15 really on them at -13.5.
You have 15. Wow. So you're even more confident than me. You go first then.
I just like this Iowa State team this year. I mean, everything. So let me pull this up just so that I can actually talk about it a little bit better. They played Oklahoma State really well in Oklahoma. You got to remember, for anybody who's listening from around the country or from international or wherever you're listening from, Oklahoma State has fans in the stadium, which is a big difference. The other game that Iowa State lost was week 1. They lost a home game to Louisiana Lafayette. I kind of give a little bit of a pass on that game.
Oh, those are so long ago. You have no tape on the teams. You don't know what's happening. The COVID of it all. We're deep into the Big 12 regular season.
I just don't think 2 touchdowns is enough. I think Iowa State. I don't like Baylor. I think that's more of what this is. This isn't so much. I like Iowa State, but this is more of a disrespect.
Yes, that's more me as well.
And it's, I know you were on Baylor the week against Texas when they didn't cover that. They just lost to TCU by 10. They lost in overtime to West Virginia. I think that Baylor isn't very good, and I think they're going to get beat badly this week.
Baylor is trash, man. There's something seriously wrong with this program, and I get it. They lost their head coach to the Panthers, but this is a huge drop-off that I did not expect.
Mm-hmm.
And like the TCU game, they end up losing by 10. TCU was up 30-0 in the first half. Like, it was like Baylor had to kind of claw the way back in to even get to that. And Iowa State I have as a better team than TCU. I know they played and it was close and Iowa State won. But I think Iowa State is trending in the right direction here, with the win over Oklahoma. Close loss, like you said, to Oklahoma State on the road. So for me, it's just a team that's trending up and a Baylor team that is they're looking very rough.
They're looking bad.
Really bad. So if it's under the 2 touchdowns, give me Iowa State.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move to the biggest game of the weekend, which is Clemson Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is underdogs by 5.5, despite being the 5th or 6th best team in the country. Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, and still Clemson is getting all of the love here. It's in Notre Dame. Clemson got really scared last week, almost lost that game, managed to come back and beat BC. I'm on the Tigers, man. I'm on the Tigers at -5.5. I love it.
Here. I got 20, I only got 20 on it.
I have 15 on it. I'm so confident.
This spread, man, is a joke.
Yeah.
It's a joke. And I'll get into, I'll let you start, but
Notre Dame has done nothing impressive all season long. They've done nothing that makes me go, you know what? This is the team to beat. This is a top 5 team. And everybody's going to look at last week's game and say, oh, well, Clemson got lucky. Clemson came back from down, 21 points to a good football team. Boston College is pretty damn good. They came back against a good football team and beat them without their starting quarterback. They got punched in the mouth so hard and still came back. And you know what it was? It was the defense, and it was Travis Etienne. And that is exactly what is going to destroy Notre Dame this week. And I can't pronounce DJ's last name. I'm not even going to attempt it. I'm going to butcher it.
Talela.
It's going to sound offensive if I do it. So I'm going to ignore it
more times.
But I think he's relaxed now. And I think they took the punch in the mouth. They should have lost that game. They found a way to win it. And I think they come out here this week, and I think they beat the living daylights out of a bad, overrated, stupid Notre Dame team that I have no respect for. And I think Clemson beats them by, I think this is going to be a 21-point game. I really do. I just have no faith in Ian Book against this defense at all. And I think it's going to be one of those where you look up and go, how is it 21-0 Clemson? The answer, because Clemson's defense is really freaking good, and I think Clemson's offense is going to go through ETN, and I don't see Notre Dame stopping him. So I got this. I got 15 on it at Clemson -5.5.
Yep, I got 20 on this with you for a lot of the same reasons, but some additional reasons too. So because you said you haven't, like, Notre Dame hasn't done anything.
Mm-hmm.
I give them credit. Their defense is really good. So I'll give them that. Give them some credit there. But again, this is the same point I said I was going to make again. It's the great offense versus a great defense. Mm-hmm. Clemson's got a great offense. Notre Dame's got a great defense. Clemson's still going to score. And so it is a question of kind of, okay, Trevor Lawrence, where does he fit in? He's not playing. But Clemson still has a great offense with DJ. I really do. I think this is a complete there's a narrative here, and I'll paint the narrative, and I think it is just a false narrative. So Clemson, Trevor Lawrence, Heisman candidate, first overall pick in the NFL draft, gets COVID last week, sits out, and they have this scare against BC.
Yep.
So it must have been DJ wasn't doing it. They need Trevor Lawrence. They squeaked one out against BC, and now they got to go play Notre Dame on the road without Trevor Lawrence. Man, Notre Dame has got a real opportunity here. And that narrative, to me, is just completely false. That
I completely agree.
Has influence in that game. So here is DJ's stat line: 30 for 41. So that's like 73% completion, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, also with a rushing touchdown. Like, he was not just good, like, he was really good. He's a great quarterback. The talent is there. He's more talented than Ian Book. Like, I'm taking DJ already over Ian Book, despite Ian Book's experience. The problem against BC was Clemson's defense. It was not their offense. That's a good point. It was their defense. BC was able to get some really big pass plays, some big run plays. They gave up QB sneaks to the BC quarterback. It's got the weird last name.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I can never remember his last name. I've watched that team every game.
Is it Jerkovich? Anyway,
Jerkovich, yeah, he blew it at the Petrovich or or something. Yeah,
I don't know.
I know what you're talking about.
So they gave up some big plays, but then they also gave up, like, there's some drives where Clemson couldn't get themselves off the field in the first half. BC had a drive, 15 plays, 74 yards, 7 minutes and 42 seconds. When have you seen a team do that against Clemson's defense? Never. And we're going to sit here and say, oh, well, Trevor Lawrence wasn't playing. Well, that's 7 minutes and 42 seconds that Trevor Lawrence wouldn't have been playing anyway. So when you look, why didn't Clemson score more in the first half? BC was putting together these really long drives. So you look at that defense and say, what was going on? But then you look at the second half. The defense was like, oh, crap, we're kind of in a dogfight here. We're putting our offense in a tough spot. Our offense isn't seeing the field that much. BC doesn't score a point in the second half. That defense, they did a little kick. They got that thing back right away. This game really wasn't that close. DJ looked really good the whole game. And so now they're going to go face Notre Dame team that Notre Dame, what do they do on offense? The only thing they do on offense is run the ball. They have a nice offensive line. They are pretty solid at that. Ian Book does not throw. He does like the dink and dunk, some screens. They don't pressure the outside. And I think Clemson, what they're going to do here, best defensive front in the country with Clemson, stack the box, make Ian Book throw. Yeah. That's what they're going to do. And he won't be able to. He hasn't been able to all season long. And it's not like Clemson's secondary are a bunch of schlubs either. They're not as good as their defensive front, but they're pretty good. So I don't think Ian Book is going to be able to dice up this Clemson secondary when he hasn't been able to dice up Louisville's secondary or any team they've played secondary at all this season. So for me, I don't know. I understand the narrative of why it's at 5.5 because they don't have Trevor Lawrence.
And money's coming in on Notre Dame. It was at 6 and now it's down to 5.5. Money's coming in on Notre Dame.
It's this narrative that makes a lot of sense. But when you look at how that game went against Boston College, you can't put any of that on DJ.
It reminded me of every movie you've ever watched. Remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights, whatever football movie you watch, whenever the big game comes, somebody gets injured. Oh no, how will they recover? And then things start to go bad and the other team racks up 20 points and it's like, they're done. They're missing their captain. And you get the one play and it all changes. And the next thing you know, they don't even bother with the rest of the games. They just do a montage until they get to the championship. We're going to have a montage for Clemson until we won't even need Trevor Lawrence will come back and we'll get like he's back and he's zinging the ball. But we're going to have a montage through this game. This is going to be I think it's going to be a blowout. I really do. And it's because like if Clemson got out to a huge lead and then fell apart, I'd be like, what's going on with this team? Like maybe they're just not that good, but they got out to a horrible start and they are so resilient. And Dabo Swinney is such a good football coach that they had no problem coming back without their leader
for these big games. They always get.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's going to be I think it's going to be a great game to watch because I went to Miami and I hate Notre Dame. My last pick of the night, the best team against the spread in college football this season, Arkansas Razorbacks. I got them on the money line this week at home against the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Tennessee Volunteers should volunteer to stop playing football because I'm tired of watching it. Let's go Razorbacks. I got the Hogs +2, but I'm going to take the money line because 2 doesn't give me enough. It's not enough of insurance. I'm going to take the Razorbacks at +104. I could see this at +110, +115 as the game gets closer to kickoff, but the Hogs are the way to go. Will, you got anything about that?
I don't. It feels right to me. I mean, Arkansas has been a nice little story this year. Tennessee hasn't been at all.
They were supposed to be better than they are.
So, but you think like if you are Tennessee and you got Arkansas, it's like this is our game to feel good about, and that we really need this because if you lose to Arkansas, the wheels are then fully off the bus. Then you're going places where you don't want to go. And I think that's the thing that scares me about this game is how important it is for Tennessee. And you look at Arkansas, I'm not sure how big of a game or important this is.
It's massive. They're 2-3. They need this one.
They need it for what, though? What do they need it for?
So that they can play in a bowl game this year. Because you know what? There's no bowl restrictions.
That's what I was about to say. Like they're an SEC team that's had a nice little season so far. They could have gone 0 whatever. And maybe gotten a bowl game just because they're an SEC team and they will.
I disagree because Arkansas doesn't have the draw that a lot of other teams have. They don't have the draw. Tennessee has a bigger draw than Arkansas, and I think Arkansas beating them will do wonders for them.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it means so much to Tennessee, and not that it means
this is probably the last game Arkansas is going to win this season as well, just so you know, because the end of their schedule is Florida, LSU, Missouri, Alabama. They might be able to beat Missouri. I don't see them beating any of the other 3 teams.
I think they could beat LSU. I might take Arkansas, outright against LSU.
But I love the Hogs, man. 5-0 ATS. None of them have even been close. That's the other thing. They've covered handily. And I guess not the Georgia game because it was 27.5 and they covered by 27. But since then, 16.5 dogs to Mississippi State. They win by 7, 13.5 dogs to Auburn. They win by 2, or they lose by 2. 1 point underdogs to Mississippi. They win by 12, 14.5 point underdogs to Texas A&M. They lose by 11. I think they win this game outright. I'm going to take it. I'm going to go. But go ahead. I get it. I get it. What else you got? I'm done. So
I've got one more game in the SEC, and I'm now that you tossed the money line out, it's like I kind of want to just like have
a little fun, play a game.
Yeah, so like I already have 15 on West Virginia +6.5, but give me 10 on that +210 money line for West Virginia to win. Play that. I think Texas loses this game, especially like
you hate Texas.
Texas beats like the top 5 team. What a spot. Like Texas, this is just a game Texas would lose. They win these weird big games. Like we've seen them beat Oklahoma. We've seen them beat Oklahoma State. We've seen them beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, but then they'll like lose to TCU. They'll lose to West Virginia. They'll lose to Baylor. They'll lose to Iowa State. Like they don't, even when they're good, they don't really, they have problems sometimes with the inferior teams. I just don't think West Virginia is an inferior team. They look so good last week. Their defense is legit, and that matchup, that's the matchup I'm really, really eyeing is Texas's offense versus West Virginia's defense. It is so in the favor of West Virginia that I think it's enough where, on the other side, West Virginia's offense, yeah, not great, but Texas defense hasn't been great either. So that's kind of like a push. And then the other one's going all the way favoring West Virginia. So, yeah, give me that money line. And I got one more game left.
Let's hear it.
Not a big, like, I don't know. I have $15 on it, but it's not a huge. This is a pretty simple thing here. It's what I've been doing. It's when I could have mentioned it when I said I'm fading Kansas and I'm fading Rutgers. I'm just gonna keep fading Vanderbilt, man. It just keeps working.
Yeah.
So Mississippi State -19 at home against Vanderbilt. It's just it's kind of a blind fire. Just fade Vandy. But looking more into it, it does feel pretty good. Mississippi State is supposed to have like this air raid offense with Mike Leach. Hasn't really been there. Not looking good. Their offense, I think, I don't have it off the top of my head, but
the first game of the season, and since then it's been bad.
Well, I think they're like 13th in offense in the SEC. I think they're only ahead of Vanderbilt. So, like, these are the two worst offenses in the SEC playing this week. But we, like you just said, we have seen a glimmer. It's not like, where's the air raid? What is it? We actually have had a taste. We've had a sample. We know what Mississippi State can do when it plays a terrible defense. We saw against LSU, and LSU might have, one of the worst defenses after that Auburn game. Oh my God. So for me, Mississippi State, if you're going to put this air raid out, if this is what you are, and this is what you're about, and you get Vanderbilt's defense at home, how do you not cover this? This is a similar thing. Like, the wheels are fully off the bus if they don't look good against Vandy. Like, it's seriously. And then you have to start asking, like, the tough questions about Mike Leach. And I don't think that's where Mike Leach is going to let this go. And
like, was his meme appropriate that he sent out before the season started?
Right.
That's the important questions.
So Vandy 1-3 against the spread this season. It's not like they're playing a team that's kind of middle. Vanderbilt has been bad.
Yeah.
So give me Mississippi State. I mean, I was on Ole Miss last week. I think that was 16.5, and Ole Miss covers that pretty easily. And I know Ole Miss has a much better offense, but it's like, we've seen it. I've seen that glimmer against LSU. We know what it can be. Let's see it this week. I think this week is where we get it, and they win this thing handily. I know 19's big, but I got 15 on it. I feel good.
I like it. Let's rattle off our bets and let's get out of here so everybody can actually put these in since it's Thursday. I got Miami -10.5, Miami NC State under 59. You convinced me. Ohio State -38, Clemson -5.5, Liberty +14.5, Illinois +7.5, Oklahoma State -12. That's my biggest play of the week. Iowa State -13.5, and Arkansas on the money line. I got 6 more bets for you if you're involved on our forum site, if you're paying for our paid picks. And if you don't want to do college football, NFL 12-5 in our last 17 against the spread and over unders, +9 units. If you were betting $100 every time, you're up $900 in the last 3 weeks. Congratulations. That's really good. So get involved while we're still hot. The model that we're using clearly works. Will, what do you got?
Also going to plug BetBuds one more time before I rattle off my picks.
Of course.
BetBuds.net. Sign up. Contact us if you want to get your own group going. Again, there's a couple more spots left to be one of our test groups. It's so much fun. No commission. You get action on all the games. It really is a lot of fun. So go check that out. BetBuds.net. All right. My picks. Like I said, that pairing of Miami -10 and under 59 is a great duo. I don't see that going 0-2. Obviously, we love the 2-0, but the 1-1 split is a great safety net there. I got the Cougars, BYU, -3 against a Boise State team we don't know a lot about. Army, Navy, under 41. Nothing to say there. Liberty, +14.5, not at 15, 14.5?
14.5, yeah.
Got West Virginia, +6.5 at Texas, and then give me West Virginia money line, +210. Got Florida, +3.5 against Georgia. I'm also going over 52.5 on that game because, man, Florida, that's a great over team for you with that great offense and that terrible defense. A couple fades with Oklahoma, -38 at home against Kansas. Ohio State, -38 against Rutgers. And Minnesota, Illinois, over 61.5. Mississippi State, -19 at home against Vanderbilt. Got Iowa State, -13.5 at home against Baylor. I got Oklahoma State, -12.5 at Kansas State. And then Clemson, -5.5. those are my picks. I mean, at the end of that, it's like rattling off favorite after favorite. But I mean, I
got to do what you got to do.
Like these picks, man, they're the favorites for a reason. I mean, we got some dogs in here. We got Florida. We got West Virginia. We got Liberty. So we got a good mix here.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Enjoy the Pac-12. Enjoy a full slate of college football. I hope you all enjoyed Maction last night. It's back. We're back. It's November. Things are looking good. Football is back, and we will see everybody next week.